Sofirn has been on a push in late 2017 to improve their flashlights and asked if I'd like to take a look at one. I chose the C8F, which has triple LEDs and is fairly affordable on Amazon with Prime shipping. Thanks to Sofirn for sending this light to me to take a look at, and for their patience while I review this light a little bit later than normal. So the construction of this light, it looks extremely similar. I'd go as far to say it is the same body as the Convoy C8. I don't have a C8 directly to compare it to, but in all the photos I've looked at, it's the same. So there are no sharp edges and on the aluminum anywhere on this light. Everything's nicely machined. I have no problems there. The finish is pretty even and it's kind of a little bit chalky, similar to Army Tech but less chalky, so it's a matte, smooth finish. And it does seem to scratch if provoked. I scratched it there with my calipers on the end that you can see there just a little bit. It does use squarish threads, which are a nice touch to see there. They're very smooth and were well lubricated, even more so than some of the higher end flashlights that I've looked at. This light uses a side-mounted switch there, and this can be unscrewed. And from looking at other reviews, there are some LEDs under there which are not used in this light, and I think that's a missed opportunity. This lens here is not anti-reflective coated glass, but it's fairly thick. It doesn't feel like it's going to break or anything like that. I see no problems there. You can see there it's a rather deep reflector for these, and the LEDs are nicely centered in there. This may be a little bit hard to see in there, but you can see that spring in the tail cap is bypassed. It's got a little bit of solder on there, and that's a nice touch to see from an OEM. That's a lot of times something modders will do after the fact, so it's a nice touch to see Sofirn doing that by default. They've got an extra piece of wire there soldered on. It allows more voltage to go to the light. So when I measured this light, it came in at 144 millimeters in length, and at its thickest point it measured 44.5 millimeters, and its thinnest point here on the body it measured 21.4 millimeters. When I weigh this, it comes in with battery at 243.5 grams. Now I do need to speak about the reliability of this light. This is the second Sofirn C8F I've received. The first one had driver issues causing 2/3 of the LEDs to no longer work. I emailed Sofirn and they were very quick to respond that said they had a new version that improves the cooling and increases the thickness of the circuit board that they did ship out when it was ready. And a couple weeks later I got the improved light. And this is the second version and it's not had any problems. I've ran it through about 10 full battery charges, discharges, ran it on turbo, did everything I could to try and melt it or within reason, and had no problems. It seems they fixed this issue, and I hope all the old stock has been recalled on Amazon by now. This light uses 3 Cree XPL LEDs in neutral white, and I really like that they chose to only offer neutral light. Maybe over time, as more people experience neutral light, it'll become the norm instead of the option on so many lights today. The tint's listed between 5350 Kelvin to 5700 Kelvin, and I'd agree with that, and I'll put in a beam shot here. The beam has a longer hotspot and is pretty round thanks to the lens, despite it being 3 LEDs. The centering of each LED is good inside the head. For the size of the light running on this one battery, the throw's pretty good. I'd say it easily exceeds the claimed 250 meters. The UI on this light has 4 modes. By default, this light starts in group 1, which is where I'll leave it. You have a low, medium, and high in turbo. In group 1, there's a big difference between low at 85 lumens and medium at 650 lumens. And I'll just kind of show that here. So here is low. If I bump up one more, there is medium there. And if I bump up one more, that'd be high. And as you can see, it's just a big difference between the two. And let me show you Moonlight Mode. The mode spacing isn't great in group 1, but in group 2, 3, or 4, it adds additional modes that spaces that out. What's different is the value of low and medium and all the other modes change as you add groups. It's just a little bit different. It's hard to explain, but much easier to explain in a table, which I'll show here. As mentioned earlier, there is a memory in this light, and Moonlight is a bit of a problem with that. So to get to Moonlight, you have to first press and hold, and you go to low as you saw there, and then it goes to Moonlight. So if I shut it off and do this again, I press and hold, and it goes to low, then goes to Moonlight. I have a problem with this because it's going to your memorized mode, which in my case that I just showed is low instead of just directly to moon. So if the last mode you're on was high here, so if I was on one of the higher modes here and I shut the light off and then I go to Moonlight Mode, I press and hold, it first goes to that higher mode and then goes to moon. That's just a problem because you defeat your night vision by doing that. Here's some quick night shots with the Sofirn C8F. Now there is snow on the ground and there is a full moon tonight, so you can see my surroundings a little bit better than normal. And here is moon mode, and as usual it's quite dim, but I can see the deck in front of me. This is only about 2 feet in front of me, and if I pan down you can start to see the floor as well. So here is low mode. This is the default menu structure, so just low, medium, high. And low is fairly bright. Bumping up, big bump up to medium here. And you can really see it throwing all the ways to those trees in the background there. That's probably 100, 150 yards. And if I bump up again, there is the highest mode, 2500 lumens. You can see it lights up a good area around me, lights up the neighbor's fence there with these. And this thing really puts out quite a bit of light. And there is the last final double click to turbo. Again, quite a bit of light from this thing. Fairly impressive for the price. So this light ships with a Sofirn branded red and white and black 18650 battery. It's advertised as 3000 milliamp hours. I used the battery that it came with and had no issues. However, this one looks an awful lot like an ultrafire battery to me, and as we know, ultrafire batteries are a no-go. I asked Sofirn more about the battery and they said they make it their own in their factory. I have some doubts about that because we know there's a limited number of OEM battery manufacturers, but I'll take Sofirn's word on this one this time. I've seen some reviews suggesting that you can get a higher performance with a higher amp battery. I don't have the equipment to test that directly. What I can tell you is the manual states you need a 6 amp or higher battery for turbo. This light has a timed step down, which is on the conservative side. I compared the Sofirn battery to my known high quality Sony VTC6, also at 3000 milliamp hours. And on the Sofirn battery, the light turned off after about 95 minutes of runtime. Output dropped significantly after the first few minutes, which is that timed step down that I was talking about. And you can see the low voltage warning come in at about 83 minutes on this graph. On my Sony VTC6, outputs were a bit different. It was a more gradual curve, but the low runtime was significantly longer. I stopped the light after 260 minutes because I was getting concerned about low voltage. And nothing really is mentioned about low voltage protection in the light itself. The Sofirn battery was running, when it was running on low and stopped, it was 2.4 volts when I stopped the test. And the Sony VTC6 at significantly longer on that low runtime was 2.69 volts when I stopped it. The manual says the light does have a warning at 2.8 volts, which I only saw on the Sofirn runtime graph, so I'm not 100% sure what's going on here without digging into it deeper. Here's the included charger. And I really have no complaints about this charger. It's pretty decent. It looks very similar to the X-Star MC1 that I have, but charges faster than that. It's got a micro USB and it does come with an included cable, and it's expandable there, so you could charge smaller batteries in this, and 18350 would be fine, or probably a CR123. And I did measure the charge rate at 0.87 amps, and it does have reverse polarity protection. And the terminal voltage when done on the Sofirn battery was at 4.1 volts. So here's the packaging. It's the light. When I received it, it's just a brown cardboard box. When you fold it out, it did come with foam in there, and the light was wrapped in bubble wrap. And then you had your accessories, which is the charger, the lanyard cable, which I tested and it didn't pull apart, and then the micro USB charging cable. One note about the lanyard, this light does have a nice area for it on the tail cap. You could use a piece of cable or other rope to put through there and have a more secure attachment if you wanted to. This is a pretty cheap way to get into a Tripple 18650 light with decent throw available with prime shipping. The throw is more than I was expecting, easily exceeds the claimed distance numbers in my observations. Sofirn seems to have addressed the reliability concerns they initially had on this version 2, and I believe the UI is improved as well based on what I've read. I like that they're making changes rather quickly to address improvements and concerns, and I might suggest a name change so it's easier and more distinctive from the Western world. I do urge some caution with this battery. It seems to be fine in my initial testing, but it does look an awful lot like an Ultrafire. I'd advise Sofirn to pick a different wrapper that doesn't look like Ultrafire batteries. I'd also advise Sofirn to make an improvement or designate the improvement as maybe a version 2, or at least note it in the title on the Amazon website. That way, if people have concerns about quality that received earlier lights, people know they'll be getting an improved one. I like that this light comes with everything needed to get up and running and is available in neutral white. I think the UI could be improved a little bit, especially with how the Moonlight operates, but that's probably not a deal killer for most people. Check the description below for a link to this light on Amazon. Sofirn's provided a discount, and you can get that code below. Thanks for watching this video. If you've enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to my channel. Doing so helps me to continue to bring reviews like this to you.